holders are made to allow us to take hot pans out of the oven without burning our hands. We use pot holders in some form or another because pain is associated with the harmful action of getting a burn. They protect us. But can you think of a time in your life when there was no pot holder, no crutch to save you from your pain? Maybe you literally forgot to wear pot holders when getting a hot casserole out of the oven. Or maybe you experienced a pain that it felt like you could never escape. There was a time like this for me just last year. It all began on another normal day. I woke up, had school, and went to swim practice. I was just swimming along when mid-stroke, I felt a sharp and painful jab at my side. My rib had popped out of its place. At first, I assumed this was a one-time thing, but I quickly realized that this was not the case. The next day, my rib popped out twice. The day after that, 5 times. And the following day, a different rib began to pop out of its place too. It got to the point where 2 different ribs would pop out of place many times in any given day. And it always started with this one single pop under my rib. A pop so distinct, I could hear it. You know when you're blowing a bubble with bubble gum and the tension just builds and builds until eventually it pops? That sound, that was the sound I would hear every time one of my ribs would pop out of place. But that sound was nothing compared to the pain that accompanied it. Immediately after, or sometimes even simultaneously, began this acute, stabbing pain, as if a sharp object had been thrust in between 2 ribs and twisted over and over again. This sharp feeling lasted for about 30 seconds. However, the sharp pain was not the end of it. What followed was unlike anything else that I've ever felt before. This pain was dull, persistent, and tight. My whole upper abdominal region felt like it was being pulled in all different directions. Instead of localized, this wrenching feeling radiated intense pain from my ribs outward. Simple tasks became harder. Sometimes standing up straight was the most difficult task, so I would curl up in a ball just to try to ease the pain even a little bit. And this feeling, it lasted for hours. A constant, nagging pain. A reminder always at my side that something just wasn't right. It was months before I discovered what was wrong with me, but I later found out it's called slipping rib syndrome. Slipping rib syndrome is a chronic condition where cartilage in the lower ribs slips, causing the rib itself to do the same. Basically, the ribs pop out of place. It often goes undiagnosed or misdiagnosed, which can lead to months or even years of unresolved pain. Most people have the syndrome on only one side of the rib cage. For me, it was on both sides. It affected these 2 ribs. And to fix this problem, doctors removed the affected ribs and cartilage surgically. This means that I no longer have the ribs that would pop out of place. So while I still experience some residual pain, I no longer experience constant pain daily. Having the surgery to correct the issue was liberating, but also finally knowing what was affecting me, what the cause of my pain was, gave me this huge relief. It was definitely a struggle not knowing what was wrong with me. It was pretty scary having my ribs pop out of place many times a day, causing me this awful pain and having no explanation for it. I was left with an aching uncertainty. I spent a lot of time wondering, what was wrong with me? Why was it happening to me? And why couldn't I do anything to make it go away? All of my typical remedies for aches and injuries did nothing. I had no pot holder. no savior from my pain. I was stuck with it. So realizing there was nothing I could do to make the pain go away, I quit trying so hard to make the pain stop. Remember, I still didn't even know I had slipping rib syndrome at the time. So rather than live in fear of the pain, I learned to accept that pain as something that was going to happen and that I would have to live with for the time being. And only then did I start to feel a sense of normalcy return. I was able to live not despite the pain, but with it. While this didn't make the pain disappear, it made it a whole lot easier to work with it. It is for this reason that I didn't give in to the pain. I found myself laughing, smiling, returning to somewhat of a routine, and worrying more about the test next Tuesday than my ribs popping out of place. During this time, I learned that pain is an important part of life and isn't just a bad thing. For starters, pain protects us, just like a potholder. When we associate injury with harmful actions, we can take the necessary safety precautions to prevent our own harm. The use of potholders to prevent burns shows how pain can help protect us from harm from external factors. But pain can also protect the inside of the body from harm. Any irritation or aching can alert us of any diseases or conditions that might be causing problems inside of the body, and allows us to take action to restore our health. Along with this, by experiencing pain, we can find greater appreciation for the times of good health. The many months I've spent with slipping rib syndrome have instilled in me a greater sense of gratitude for my own health. Not having to worry about pain or health-related issues is such a blessing, but it is one that goes forgotten all too often. It is important to remember that pain is a sensation, and although typically perceived as a bad feeling, it is what allows us to have and understand the good feelings. But perhaps the most important lessons that I've learned from my own pain have not come from the physical component, but the emotional counterpart that it brought. When I finally acknowledged that pain could do something other than just hurt, I actually began to learn from it. I learned to confide in people, more so than ever before. When I quit trying to carry the burden of my pain alone and really told the people close to me about my struggle, not only did my day-to-day get easier, but my relationships grew as well. Because of this, I learned what a great foundation strong relationships are for life. I also learned that I am stronger than I thought. I was able to make it through something that felt absolutely impossible at the time, and still to this day, I remark that as one of my greatest accomplishments. Now, whenever I go through something that feels tough or just impossible, I remember the pain that I went through, but was still able to make it through. Pain has lessons to teach all of us, and big or small, emotional or physical, dull or stabbing, pain's lessons are different for all, but each is still worthy of learning. Pain is inevitable. Because of this, I accept it as a matter of fact. But, and this is really important, it is only a fact of the moment. I still know that pain is tough, and although I may still complain about what I had to go through, I would never wish away my ability to feel pain. In fact, I am grateful for it. Pain was a feeling, one that I was experiencing at the time. Because of that, it had value, and its value made it a hidden treasure. Thank you.